The film begins with Furiosa and Valkyrie, two young girls joyfully plucking apples from a tree. They run into a gang nearby, which throws off their tranquil moment. Quickly moving, Furiosa approaches the gang's motorcycles covertly in an effort to disable them and stop them from making their getaway. One of the gang members notices her while she's tinkering with the bikes. She moves quickly, stabbing him in the leg with a knife as she runs away, calling out for her mother, Mary. The villagers, under Mary's leadership, take initiative. As they watch, the gang seizes Furiosa and rides off on their motorcycles. Mary and her companion rapidly pursue them, exchanging gunfire until they successfully dislodge one of the gang members from his motorcycle. After giving her friend the order to return to the village for its safety, Mary takes control of the deceased gang member's motorcycle and keeps pursuing. She kills one gang member, but two others, including the one who was holding Furiosa, escape. Mary pursues them non-stop until she witnesses them going into their hiding place. She uses her sniper rifle to kill another gang member from a distance, leaving just one person holding Furiosa. The surviving gang member succeeds in letting Furiosa enter the hiding place. We find that a man by the name of Dementus is the gang's leader. Men from Dementus question the gang member who took Furiosa hostage, wanting to know where he found her. Healthy girls are hard to come by these days. The gang member offers to reveal the location of the resource area if he can meet Dementus beforehand, so he can take credit for finding her. Men of Dementus concur. When Furiosa sees that the gang is about to find her village, she takes decisive action and slashes the gang member's throat, severely hurting him. The men of Dementus bring Furiosa to him and inform him of the circumstances. Dementus confirms that Furiosa is in fact healthy by ordering a health checkup. Next, Dementus calls for the gang member who kidnapped her, but he is near death and cannot reveal the location of the village before he passes away. Dementus chooses to retain Furiosa with the intention of using her in the future to find and subjugate her village. Dementus gives a woman and two of his men orders to bring Furiosa to a tent and tend to her needs. In the meantime, Mary enters the tent housing Furiosa by disguising herself to look like a member of the gang. She quickly eliminates Furiosa's two guardian men. The woman begs for forgiveness, and Mary grants it, allowing Furiosa and a motorcycle to make their getaway. But the woman tells the gang that Furiosa and her mother made an escape. Mary is carrying some gasoline, which the gang ignites as they swiftly organize and begin shooting at her. When Mary's clothes catch fire, she puts them out fast enough to continue her escape with Furiosa. Mary sustains severe burns from the fire, making it possible for Dementus to find them. Mary makes the self-sacrificing decision in an attempt to save Furiosa. She threatens to fight Dementus's men in order to buy herself some time to get away. She asks her to plant a seed she gives her back in their native country when she gets back. Mary confronts Dementus's men after making sure Furiosa departs, killing a few of them before they finally subdue her. Observing the situation from a distance, Furiosa goes back to save her mother. Sadly, Dementus kidnaps her and, in a heartbreaking display of torture, murders her mother in front of her. The following day, Furiosa is bound and placed inside an iron cage when Dementus and his men meet at an unspecified location. Since one of Dementus's men had tried to flee, Dementus had tied his limbs to motorcycles and forced his men to fight until they died. The winner gets to rip the escapee's limbs off while riding the motorcycle. Furiosa understands that Dementus and his men are insane after seeing this brutality, and that the next few days will be a difficult ordeal. The following day, Furiosa is still in her cage with an elderly man known as the History Man, as Dementus sets out in search of food and water. Furiosa declines the historian's offer to learn how to write. But that evening, Furiosa starts teaching herself how to write covertly. On the following day, they come upon an odd man who is lying injured on the road. When he sees them, the man feels as though he has entered paradise. Dementus is curious and asks the man about his life. He discloses that Immortan Joe, the man in charge of the castle, had an unusual amount of control over the people who lived there. The man thinks he went to heaven after dying to protect Joe. Dementus persuades the man to lead them to the castle after learning that it has plenty of food and water. When Dementus gets to the castle, he proclaims that it is his goal to free the populace from the oppressive grip of Immortan Joe, the tyrant. He exhorts the populace to join him in the fight for freedom, but he gets no response. The aide to Immortan challenges Dementus to select one of Immortan's men. Immortan gives the man the order to commit suicide after Dementus points to one. The man voluntarily obeys. The aide then declares that Immortan's men are ready to die at any time for him. At that moment, Dementus is confronted by Scrotus and Rictus Erectus, Immortan's sons, who inform him that he and his men are doomed. Immortan's army strikes with lightning speed at Dementus and his warriors. Dementus loses a lot of men in the battle that follows. Amid the confusion, a few of Immortan's warriors try to seize Furiosa, but Dementus steps in quickly and takes her with him. Following these terrifying experiences, Dementus and his remaining men discover a truck carrying food from Immortan's castle to a city known as Gastown. Taking advantage of the situation, Dementus's men manage to seize control of Gastown, an essential center for fuel resources, by hijacking the truck. Now that they have control over Gastown, Dementus and his men move toward Immortan's castle with the help of the city's leader. Dementus offers Immortan a deal. Either he destroys Gastown and all of its fuel, or he lets Dementus and his men live there and give Immortan fuel in return for food and water, just like the previous ruler had done in the past. In exchange for Furiosa becoming one of his wives, something his current wives haven't been able to accomplish, Immortan accepts the arrangement. Dementus nods in agreement, putting the agreement ahead of his feelings for Furiosa. Furiosa is later taken by Immortan's men and placed among his wives. Immortan has not been able to father a healthy child, and his offspring have a variety of health problems or deformities, even though his wives are in good health. Furiosa makes the decision that she will neither stay here nor marry Immortan. As she gets ready to flee, she starts cutting her hair. That evening, Furiosa escapes and vanishes into the darkness as Rictus shows up and drags her to a room with evil intentions. Rictus conceals her escape because he is aware of the repercussions of abusing a prospective Immortan bride. When Immortan's men lower a suspended car years later, they reveal a much grown-up Furiosa among them, dressed like a boy. She's been biding her time as one of Immortan's soldiers, hiding in plain sight. Furiosa climbs onto the hanging car to secure it when it looks like it might fall, winning the crew's respect in the process. Soon after, Furiosa and the group get to work building a huge truck that will be used to carry supplies and food for trade. When she finds out that Jack, the driver of the truck, is about to leave, she sees this as her opportunity to get away. When it's ready, Jack drives the truck out of the castle while Furiosa hides inside. But robbers ambush the group, attacking to take the truck and its cargo. Furiosa discovers the truck is seriously damaged and could explode in the midst of the chaos. She repels the assailants as she attempts to fix it. There are waves of bandits attacking, and each time they get stronger as Jack's men fight back. When they arrive, a gang of bandits carrying propellers on their backs start throwing bombs at the truck. After making just enough repairs to the truck, Furiosa lets Jack into her life. She fights beside Jack and he accepts her assistance. After taking out a bandit who was threatening the truck with fire, she pulls another one in the direction of the truck using a propeller. Furiosa threatens Jack with a gun after she defeats the bandits and demands to be in charge of the truck. Jack retaliates by hurling her outside and taking off, abandoning Furiosa by herself in the desert. Jack comes back to Furiosa a short while later and tells her that there is nowhere safe for her to flee to, even if he gives her the truck. Gastown and the castle, both under the control of Immortan Joe or Dementus, are the only places that remain viable. Furiosa aims the firearm towards Jack. Her determination is evident, and Jack acknowledges that he has lost a lot of men. He also admires her for standing up for him in the truck. He offers her a deal. In exchange for her joining him as his assistant, he will teach her everything there is to know about road survival. In this manner, she might eventually manage to get out. Furiosa, won over, consents to accompany him. Jack and Furiosa soon form a convoy team and travel to Gastown together. As it happens, Gastown is a sizable metropolis where a large population of slaves labor to extract oil. They get fuel in exchange for delivering their goods. A local tells Jack that Dementus is waging war on him and that he is starving the populace and causing chaos. Disinterested in the struggle, Jack takes a requested weapon and gives it to Furiosa so she can defend herself if she decides to flee. Days later, Jack and Furiosa bring more food to Gastown and demand fuel in return. This time, Dementus himself confronts them and declines to exchange the scant food supply for fuel. Jack chooses to take the food and go without protest. Dementus stops the on-the-verge-of-violence residents from acting desperate and lets them go. Explaining the situation to Immortan Joe and his men, Jack returns. Immortan Joe, furious, resolves to go to war with Dementus, but he makes careful preparations. He is aware that sending his whole army would wipe out everything, including the fuel. He chooses to battle Jack's squad. Furiosa is happy and ready to exact revenge on Dementus for the passing of her mother. A few days later, Jack's group travels to Gastown, where they encounter the deadly men of Dementus, who put down anyone who stands in their way. Dementus shows up to take stock of the situation amidst the mayhem. Furiosa makes an unsuccessful attempt to snipe Dementus. Dementus fires a rocket in retaliation, knocking Furiosa off balance but not killing her. Jack seizes the opportunity to assist Furiosa into a car, and they drive off while the rest of their team is lying dead. But Dementus follows after them with such fervor that he eventually catches them both. Following their capture, Dementus ties Furiosa up to keep her from escaping, while his men use their bikes to torture Jack. Dementus turns his attention to Furiosa after they have completed torturing and killing Jack, only to find that she has escaped by chopping off her own hand. Dementus and his soldiers are pursuing Furiosa as she runs in the direction of Immortan Joe's castle. They try, but Furiosa escapes them. She gets off the bike, exhausted, and continues to walk until she collapses and passes out. When Furiosa wakes up, she discovers that she and an elderly woman are in an unknown cave with mutilated human corpses all around. Terrified, she leaves right away and heads back to Immortan Joe. She tells him about her experience and alerts him to Dementus's impending attack. Immortan, furious, sends his army to face Dementus. Days later, Immortan Joe and Dementus engage in a bloody battle that results in significant casualties for both parties. Furiosa makes a new iron prosthetic hand to replace the one she lost during this turbulent time. Once finished, she combines forces with Immortan Joe's soldiers and asks to use a car to help in the fight. They give her a beat-up car, which she takes to a place where a large number of Immortan's men are assembled. Dementus's forces are able to kill a large number of his soldiers, forcing him to withdraw with his remaining forces. When Furiosa learns of this, she steals Rictus's vehicle and goes after Dementus. She finds Dementus and his cronies, dispatching a number of them. Dementus replies, telling his men to disperse in an attempt to disorient Furiosa. She adheres to one group because she thinks Dementus is one of them, even though he is not. Once she has neutralized them, she goes back to looking for Dementus. When she eventually finds him, Dementus starts to run away. In the car, Furiosa follows him placidly until Dementus tires and gives up. After getting out of the car, she approaches him and asks if he remembers her. Dementus gives her credit. He tries to stab her with a knife as he's still talking, but Furiosa quickly strikes his face, knocking him out. When Dementus comes to, Furiosa won't stop reminding him of the horrific incident that happened 15 years prior, the murder of her mother in front of her eyes. Dementus, on the other hand, does not remember her mother. Furiosa is determined to make him remember, so she keeps beating him without showing any signs of weakness. The memories eventually come back, but Furiosa's fury doesn't lessen. She demands payment, accusing him of ruining her childhood. Feeling helpless, Dementus begs her to follow her wishes, but informs her that he is unable to change the past. Furiosa takes a regretful look. Some claim she immediately shot him, while others think she crucified him to repeat her mother's fate. There are also stories of her locking him in a cave where he would eventually rot and become a part of the ground, or tying him to a car and dragging him. The precise manner of his death is still unknown. In the second version, a tree emerged from his rotting corpse, and Furiosa would come by occasionally to harvest its fruit, a representation of his never-ending suffering. Furiosa teamed up with Immortan Joe's wives years later, and they began planning their getaway. They all hid in a huge truck together. That concludes the matter. What emotions did the film's conclusion evoke in you? Did it meet your expectations? Thanks for watching, and see you next time.